most part of the United Kingdom. And that's the picture there, John. Look,
yes, we've got about 5 minutes to go in the Isles of Scilly before
yeah,
totality
6:12
comes.
here, but 5 minutes there, yeah?
Yes, yes, a bit further west, so
yeah.
they get the shadow before us. Oh, that's really looking good. That's really looking good.
5 minutes to go. It's a good shot from the Isles of Scilly, eh?
Yes, yes. If that cloud stays like that, then I think they should see quite an interesting corona through that cloud. I don't think that will worry them too much.
John has actually brought his lucky hat in here with a Blue Peter badge on it, so that's obviously why we can get pictures from the Isles of Scilly.
Very special hats, worked every time.
Anyway, enough of that. Look outside.
Oh,
actually,
yes.
on this television picture inside here, it doesn't show it quite so well, but out there, when you go outside to look at the castle on Mount St Michael, you can see how dark it is and how the clouds have gathered, but the crowds are there, looking out over there, taking the odd snapshot.
And there are some breaks in the cloud to the south. If they will hurry up, then Patrick might get one of those gaps in Falmouth as they drift across.
Okay. I think the street lights are coming on here in Penzance. They're automatic, I imagine, John, aren't they?
Yes.
Oh, you can see them there, look.
Yes, yes. Some come on by timers, but a lot these days come on automatically as their sensors are triggered as they get towards dusk. And people at home have got to watch out now because their neighbour's security light may very well come on their garage, triggered by the folk across the road's cat or whatever.
And this is our best picture, John, isn't it? This is the picture from the Hercules.
Yes, oh,
and imagining
that's really
that it's right
fine.
over us. 4 minutes, just over 4 minutes, isn't it, to go to totality?
4 minutes here, and they're a little bit further west from us, so they will get it a bit earlier.
So a bit ahead of us, in fact.
Bit ahead of us.
And this, I think, is Alderney, and Jamie Theakston's under that one in Alderney. Jamie, you there?
Yes, Michael, we're here in Alderney. As you can see, we've got a great view here. There's a little bit of light cloud just blowing over us here. It's actually become remarkably cold. I'm joined, of course, by Dr. Chris Riley, BBC astronomer. Chris, it's getting quite eerie now here.
It is really eerie, Jamie. We've both got our coats on. There's a chill descended in the air. There's only a few % of the sun left, and it's just tantalizingly visible through a gap in the clouds right above our heads here. But the wind, I swear, has changed direction. I know Patrick doesn't believe this, but I think it has.
We've got, there's a gannet colony, of course, not far away from here. There were a lot of birds around earlier. They seem to have cleared. Is that a sense that it's getting darker?
Certainly, there seems to be a kind of hush that's descending over nature here as well. Although the wind has got up, everything else is pretty silent, really. So it's getting kind of spooky.
And the cloud cover, I mean, it's extraordinary now. I don't think I've ever seen clouds like this before. I mean, it's broken cloud, but it seems to be illuminated around the edges.
It's a real kind of mackerel sky, I think it's called, where you've got these kind of patches around the clouds that are illuminated, as you say, and as the temperature drops further, these clouds should shrink both in height and in width, so it might just clear up, and that gap that we can see the eclipse through now might just stay with us over totality.
Right, well, let's keep our fingers crossed. I know they've got 2 minutes 47 now until totality in Cornwall. Does that mean how long until we get totality here?
About 7 minutes 40 for us here, so we'll be about 5 minutes behind totality in Penzance with Michael.
Right, a real sense of excitement building here, Michael, but let's hand back to Cornwall.
Oh, 2 minutes 24, John, now to totality. It's really dark outside. And this is the Isles of Scilly. Now, if we've got 2 minutes and 17 seconds, they've only got just over a minute, haven't they, until totality?
They've got just over a minute, about a minute and 10 seconds from now. And we can see the crescent has thinned now. It's very, very thin. We can see the horns here are now beginning to draw in. And this is when your hands sweat. The hairs on the back of your neck really get tense. Here are the horns drawing in now, and then we're going to see this fade all the way down to a single point of light. I don't think we're going to get a very spectacular show of Bailey's beads as we go into totality.
We'll come back to that in a minute, John, but just here, look how dark it's got outside here.
Isn't it
at Marazion?
Absolutely wonderful. Wonderful.
It turns you on, does it, John?
It really does. And we just lost the picture there, but if we can get that back, then we'll see a plunge into totality in the Scillies in about 30 seconds.
Oh, right.
If we can get that back.
Can we still see the Scilly Islands, because we've got about 30 seconds to totality,
We've
you
got
reckon?
about 15 seconds now.
15 seconds?
And so we've got 10
Here we are.
seconds
Look.
to go. In
Gosh.
Here we are, single point of light, breaks into a couple of beads, disappears. Now they'll be able to see the corona if they can't see it through the clouds. We're coming up
Well,
here. Now
Here's the Hercules, John, so...
Okay.
And they're about where we are, so what are we doing? We're about a minute away?
We've got a bit less than a minute, I think, to go. They're a bit to the west of us. And again, we can see things thinning and the horns drawing in.
Great shouting going on outside here, and at the Radio 1 outing there.
Absolutely. Hope nobody gets dazzled by all the flashes that go off. Tremendous.
And here's the Hercules.
Here's the
again.
Hercules again. We can see the horns drawing in again, coming down to a single point light, about 30 seconds or so to go here.
People are yelling
Now
their
it is
hearts
dark.
out outside. I
See
see
that
what you mean.
the horizon to the south is still bright. We're looking out of the zone of totality there. Looks like a huge end of the world experience to the west. Still light towards Patrick in Falmouth. Isn't this absolutely wonderful? Now you're convinced this is what people come for.
It's extraordinary out
Here
here.
from the Hercules, we're beginning to see little beads forming at the end of the arc here as the last bit of sun is disappearing behind the moon. It's all breaking up now into this final point of light. Do you see what I mean about the gloom descending?
It is quite extraordinary. Look at the atmosphere out
Now,
there.
here we've got a fascinating picture. Here's the sun disappearing. Here are some Bailey's beads. And there is totality. We begin to see some prominences around the sun here.
And leave aside all the atmosphere and the hype. This is what the scientists are looking at as well, isn't
This is really wonderful. Now we've got midnight outside. Midnight at midday.
it? But
Now we
just a
can
little
see-
bit of light on the far horizon.
Here's the corona now. This wonderful structure of the sun's atmosphere being twisted and contorted and heated by the sun's magnetic field up to several million degrees. The only time you can see it by eye.
So this is the time when you can actually see what the sun does.
Absolutely. I spent 30 years studying this outer atmosphere of the sun. For me,
It's a completely eerie sight. Well, it's totally dark outside here, apart from just a bit of light on the far horizon, which is outside the zone of totality, isn't it?
yes, that's because the total zone is so narrow.
Yeah.
We're looking out of the zone of totality. Now we're beginning to see the lightning in the west as the total shadow is now passing over us. We've got 2 or 3 more seconds to go here. Totality is now essentially over here. Daylight returns.
And it is. That's extraordinary, isn't it? You can see actually on the Hercules picture, you can see the light coming. Here you can see it actually on the horizon.
Absolutely. And now, if we look to the east, we can see the shadow moving away. Patrick is probably about to come out of the shadow in Falmouth in about 5 seconds or so. And then the shadow is still heading eastwards. Totality only
This is the diamond ring, isn't it?
This is the diamond ring coming out. Isn't that beautiful? The most precious, the most elusive diamond that you will ever see. Now we're back with the filtered camera here, and now we can see the arc of the sun returning. Those were incredible pictures from the plane.
Did it do as much for you as it normally does, John, despite all the clouds?
Even unfortunately seeing it here on the monitor, well, you can see I'm still smiling. This has been
But don't you do anything else?
absolutely super. And now the shadow's heading off over the channel.
It's heading towards Patrick Moore, isn't it?
It's left Patrick, it's now heading towards Alderney. They've got about a minute and a bit to go before
Well, let's
totality.
hang on
in
a second,
Alderney.
John. Let's see if we can see Patrick more, we can see how he reacted. Patrick, did you enjoy that?
Well, in a way I did. It was an eerie experience, and clearly Yankoff showed that there was a marvellous corona. But down here, unfortunately, in St Anthony Head, we were under total cloud. The drop in the light level was quite amazing, more than I've ever known before, and the rise at the end, when it actually ended, was equally marked. But it was a strange, weird experience, one that I'm, in a way, glad to have been through, but very sorry we didn't see what was quite clearly a magnificent solar corona. You'll tie that up in our Sky at Night programme later on, but at the present moment I fear that we have to say that from here we didn't see the corona, but we did have a strange experience, and one that I think very few people will ever have again. So at least we have been through the last English total solar eclipse of the millennium.
So it was really atmosphere you got rather than anything scientific or astronomical, Patrick.
Well, we got something. We got the temperature drop, certainly, and the light drop. We got that, and some strange atmospheric effects too. A strange kind of breeze I've not come across before. We learnt something from it, but of course we didn't actually see it ourselves. And that's a great disappointment, but, well, we make the best of a bad job, and at least we saw something. We did have one tantalizing view of the partial phase about 10 minutes earlier.
Patrick, thanks very much indeed. Well, there was extraordinary scenes outside here when the shadow passed over and went totally dark and everybody started screaming. Philippa's out there. What's the atmosphere like there now, Philippa?
Well, we're
Even without the
teary.
sun.
We're very teary. Once in a lifetime, and you
Yes.
had two, didn't you?
Yes,
It brought back a lot of memories, didn't it?
yeah. Just went back in time.
You went back in time. It was darker then, you said.
Yes.
But we were looking at the beach and people were hugging and kissing and people have been drawing suns in the sand and it's just a very magical experience, even though the whole place is
Yes.
covered in cloud.
Yeah. It's just like coming back to normal now.
Yeah.
Things, oh. The horizon over there was beautiful,
Wasn't it beautiful?
Yeah.
And the birds were flying all
Yes.
around.
Yeah.
I think down on the beach, I didn't hear any noise from the animals. I didn't
No.
hear any crickets start
It
to
was-
chirp from up here.
It was just all the crowd of...
There was lots of
Yes,
whistling from the crowds,
yeah.
lots of people reactions, lots of people hugging and kissing, as I said. Michael, I don't know what Helen's doing down on the beach. We'll go and find out about her experiments later. Michael.
Okay, we'll come back to you. We can let you repair your makeup after all that tearing and crying. This is a picture from Alderney, I think, John, if you can see it from here.
Wonderful, because you can see the red prominences very clearly. Here's, this looks like third contact coming. There's the return of the sun.
And
Just
the
have a
diamond ring.
quick glimpse at those red splots. Those are prominences in the solar atmosphere. We've now come to the diamond ring effect, and as it grows, can you see little blips on the end of it? Those are particular craters on the moon being illuminated.
And this is the final eclipse on UK soil from Alderney, isn't it?
Now it's left the UK, yes, and we're giving it to the Europeans to have a bit of fun with, and they can play with it and then post it off further eastwards.
How much can scientists get from that? You said, there's the prominences, but is this one of those rare opportunities to see what they actually are?
It's a rare opportunity to see them directly from the ground, and from the ground we can deploy very much more sophisticated instruments. We've obviously got spacecraft which aren't actually in orbit around the Earth, they're sort of orbiting the Sun in fact, that give us some of the really super pictures in different sorts of wavelengths.
Well, John, thanks. We were seeing what the site was from Alderney. We can go to Alderney and see what the people in the Channel Islands made of it. Jamie.
Oh dear, I don't think I've ever experienced anything quite like that. You could probably hear the crowd behind us. Did you enjoy that? Chris, I mean, remarkable scenes then.
Jamie, we've just stood in the shadow of the moon. I mean, I can't say more than that. It was travelling over our heads at 2,000 miles an hour. Everything went dark. There was this eerie twilight around us, 360 degrees. I'm so moved. It was the most amazing experience of my life.
Now, it's brightening up rapidly now, but explain to... I mean, it literally came right across the channel at a rate, well, 2,000 miles an hour.
2,000
And you
miles
can
an hour.
actually see that. I mean, couldn't you?
You could literally see the sky darkening behind us here, and this huge wall of darkness rushing over our heads and out, as John says, towards France now. The last eclipse on UK soil for 91 years is over.
Unbelievable. Day broke during the day. I mean, it really was one of the most exciting things I've seen. So now it's gone, it's off to France.
It is. We'll be following it further on there over its course as it hurries across, even as far as Iran and onto India over the next hour or so.
Right, extraordinary scenes. Thanks so much. Let's go back to Cornwall. Back to you, Michael.
Yeah. Well, there we go. What do you... Let's have a look outside now and see what's actually happening there.
Well, we can see the horizon is now light.
We can see it now, but let's have a look at it during totality, because we were actually concentrating, weren't we, John? Mostly, and obviously, on the shot out of the Hercules. But the atmosphere out here was the thing that kept distracting me.
It really was spectacular. I mean, it really was the middle of the night.
Yeah, it was. Look at all those lights flashing. People trying to capture it, ruining it, I suppose, by those flashlights.
I always love people that take them over, too late now, yes. I mean, it's really midnight darkness there. It really is absolutely amazing. And this super lighting effect to the south. If you tried to set it up that way, I doubt if you could.
If you were a film director, it'd cost you millions to do that, wouldn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, do you want to go and see the 2001 eclipse?
Well, I don't know. I might be tempted. I wasn't tempted before, but it certainly was quite...
But you are now.
Yeah, I'd like to see without having to gas to you about it. But if we look outside now, normality returns. A grey August day in Cornwall out there on the beach.
But to be quite honest, I mean, even though we didn't actually see the corona ourselves here, the memory of this is going to stay with people for the rest of their lives, just as it did with those people that saw it in 1927.
OK, let's go out on that beach now to Philippa and to Helen and to see what those experiments actually did and what the weather's going to do.
Well, I have to say, it's warmed up hugely, thank goodness, because it was about time.
At long last.
As for your experiments, how did it all go?
Do you know, it's actually fantastic. Let me show you what happened. Over here, you can see the temperature did actually drop during totality. There was the peak of it there, and it actually started dropping down as we got through to the total eclipse. Perhaps more dramatically, which is really great as a weather person to see. You know, I told you the low pressure may not work. It kept on falling. The pressure, look, from 11 o'clock onwards, 11:10, it started rising. Not a lot, 0.1 of a millibar, which is not a lot, but it is significant because that wouldn't have been happening due to the normal weather conditions today.
Right.
So that's quite amazing. The radiation, how much sunshine we were getting through, the power of it, look at that, went right down from about 50 watts per square metre down to 0.
Yep.
And now, as you can see, it is beginning to even out and come back up again as well. So that was quite an interesting thing. The wind, well, the wind speed, it did certainly drop during totality just a little bit. And you can see it's now picked up once again. We're beginning to see the gusts picking up once more. So in all, it's been really interesting. I'm fascinated by it. It's great.
I have to go back and talk about whether our girls heard their Spanish radio. Hi, girls. Hi.
Yep.
Let me just... Right, come on. Did you hear them saying hello?
No.
Oh, no! Why not?
Well, it did become clearer, but because there's so much equipment and everything, it didn't say it, kind of.
There was a lot of noise out here as well.
Yeah.
All of you lot were making a lot of noise.
That's kind of why.
So you think that didn't help? But you did hear a little bit, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, so the experiment actually worked in that you
Yeah.
heard Spanish radio?
Yeah.
Oh, well, that's fantastic. Jolly well done, girls. And I want to catch you up with the animals if I can while we're out here. I've got time, I think, yes? Fantastic. Did the dogs howl?
No.
No, the dogs didn't howl. What did they do?
They didn't do very much at all, really. There was a lot of people about, and the guy's okay anyway. He just sat and looked and was interested in what was going on. The dark didn't really affect him at all.
He's just having an exciting day and enjoying himself,
Absolutely.
isn't he? But come here, because I do have exclusive news from the cricket enclosure here in the tent on the beach. The crickets did, in fact, chirrup. So that attitude that they had at the beginning of the programme of, oh, we're not going to be impressed at all, they did, in fact, chirrup. And Sam, our snowy owl here, hey Sam, show us your eyes, because these eyes apparently went huge. Don't have my finger off, will you? These eyes apparently went huge during the eclipse. The chickens did absolutely nothing, and the other owls weren't very impressed either, I don't think. So all in all on the beach, I would say we've had a pretty successful time of it with all of our experiments. And whatever, the atmosphere was just fantastic. Everyone enjoyed themselves. Everyone's a little calm now. There's a kind of an anti-climax feeling. Everyone's calmed down. Michael.
Thanks, Philip, and your owls. Well, of course, the eclipse is going now across Europe, heading for eventually the Bay of Bengal, and we're going to get some pictures now from Reims in France. Now they got a clear shot, and they're having a big celebration. Look.
Okay, so we're sort of resetting again.
Yeah, I know, you're resetting the clock.
Resetting the clock. Wow, they're having a good time.
Yeah,
Here we're seeing the last piece of sun again disappearing.
It's an endless replay, isn't it?
Oh, there's some wonderful beads being formed on the end here. Just watch as this now shrinks down. Here's a beautiful pink prominence. We're gradually chopping this up into separate little baby beads.
Oh, look, there's the beads.
This is wonderful. And now it all disappears, and hopefully somebody will take a filter off. And
they're going mad, and that's the main square in Reims, isn't it? And
now,
there it is, totality.
Here we are, this is totality. Now we're beginning to see the corona. It's a very busy corona because we're coming up to the maximum of the sun's activity cycle. So really it's faint, pearly light. About the brightness of the moon, in fact.
Well, they've been a bit luckier than us in France by the cathedral there.
Here we can see the prominences again.
Oh yes, wonderful shot. Well, anyway, let's come back here and to those experiments that we were doing out there on the beach. We better tie them up to Philippa, to Helen and Francisco out there on the beach.
Thank you very much. Well, Francisco, how does that rate in your eclipse viewing?
It was a great experience. We couldn't see the corona, but we saw a beautiful landscape still here. We saw the shadow of the moon rushing from there above us and all the crowds shouting, and it was amazing. And to see this orange light around St. Michael's Mount, it was amazing. Really, really impressive eclipse.
It was actually quite amazing watching you because you came so agitated. You were running around like this, checking all your filters. Do you think you will have learnt anything from viewing this eclipse from the Earth?
Yes, well, we saw some images from the aircraft, and they